Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mike Robinson. Is our guest speaker.
Just for a second, just hold on. Thanks.
Okay, you ready? Yeah, I introduce Mike Robinson, is a Land Management Division, Department of Hawaiian Homes. We're going to talk to us tonight about the Aina Mauna Legacy Program. And so with that, I'd like to turn this over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Tom. Aloha, Commissioners. Have to speak right into the microphone.
Is it on? Red is on, actually. There you go.
Okay, we're good. Have to speak right in, or can I move my head a little bit?
You tell me.
Okay. Okay, thank you for inviting me this evening to talk to you about our sheep project up on the mountain and what's going on with the Aina Mauna Legacy Program. I am Mike Robinson. I work for the Land Management Division of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. And I'm basically the only person in my division that's not assigned on Oahu. I've been in Hilo the whole time. I've been with the department. What I wanted to do tonight is go over just a couple things with you. But first of all, I think I should explain who Department of Land and Homelands is, in case some of you are unfamiliar with it. I can use a handheld mic if you want.
Test.
Hello.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, better?
Hold
So,
closer.
and that allows me a little freedom to address the audience and everybody else that's in the room. So, those of you who aren't familiar with the Hawaiian Homelands Trust, it was a federal act passed in 1920 by the U.S. Congress, basically to set aside land and put Native Hawaiians back on the land. In 1920, very few Hawaiians had access to their traditional lands. In 1920, there was not a Department of Hawaiian Homelands, so our lands were managed by the territory's equivalent of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. When statehood was achieved in 1960, the department was created, and the Department of Hawaiian Homelands has been managing those lands ever since. Obviously, some of those lands came to us in a previous condition, such as leases to Parker Ranch. The area that is Aina Mauna, or what we call Aina Mauna, is basically the Ahupua's Pu'ula and Piho Noa Mauka, and is comprised of 56,000 acres, contiguous acres. It's about 27% of our trust lands. We took back those land in 2002 and have been managing them ever since, and that's pretty much what I've been busy with for the last 13 years. I always like to start my presentations with our mission. I think any good organization has a mission, and they try and follow it as best they can, so that's what I'm sharing with you. And the bold items is where I think the Land Management Division can most contribute, which is to manage the Hawaiian Homelands Trust effectively and partnering with others towards developing self-sufficient and healthy communities. That's our mission. It's not just about putting Native Hawaiians, and our beneficiaries have to have at least 50% blood quantum or higher. It's not just about putting them on the land, it's about helping them become self-sufficient and healthy for as long as Native Hawaiians will be here, which is probably a lot longer than many of us. And of course, in a cultural concept, Aina Pula, from the land we flourish. The connection with land is extremely important to Native Hawaiians. The goals in front of me tonight are briefly go over the Aina Mauna Legacy Program, and then describe, per the Game Management Council's request, our demonstration game management project in the sheep station area of Saddle River. So this is the area I'm talking about, Aina Mauna. And again, It's actually Idaho, you're familiar with it, but that is actually part of the Hulu, and those are the three areas that I'll be talking about. The Saddle Road, I wish I had a pointer or my mouse attached, I could point out, but the Saddle Road runs between that boundary of Idaho and Homelands. And the Mauna Kea Access Road is right in that corner on the left-hand side. So if you imagine going straight up on this slide towards the word Hubula, that would get you to Mauna Kea, the top of Mauna Kea. So the Idaho Legacy Program was approved by our commission, which is our decision-making body. It's the equivalent of Department of Land and Natural Resources board. And on December 15, 2009, we approved this legacy plan for the entire 56,000 contiguous acres. And there's three goals in that legacy program. One is to restore the land's productivity. This is a shot of the, if you're familiar with the area, the Ho'opowai area, which is towards Canapolo. This is a picture taken in 1903 of some cowboys catching feral cattle. You can see in the background vegetation, which is native vegetation, Pilo, Mamani, a variety of species. You can kind of see how dense it is. This is a picture taken 100 years later, 2003, in the same vicinity after 150 years of both feral cattle and ranching. And we can't take a picture of 1803, but we did take a picture of this area above in the Mauna Kea Forest Reserve, which is in a very rough, rugged area where we go up and collect native seeds for reforesting this area. And the gentleman in that picture, it was a young intern of ours working. And you can get an idea of how the vegetation in the 1903 picture probably looked back in 1803. So you can see what 150 years of land use can do to the land. I'm not saying there wasn't a good land use. For that 100 years, a lot of people had to be fed, and that was obviously an area where cattle ranching fed most of the state, the Hulu area. The other goal is to be economically self-sustaining. As a trust, even though we depend on state funding, we're probably one of the poor agencies in the state. And so we believe that if we can't generate enough income on 56,000 acres to pay all of the bills up there, including restoration of the forest, as well as putting the former bounty that was on that land that supported a lot of people, as well as homesteading someday, that we're at the whims of legislators giving us money. We're at the whims of Washington, D.C., taxes drying up. Who knows? So we, again, to be self-sufficient, we want to generate our own economy up there. Koa is a very obvious opportunity. Koa wood, as you know, is very valuable. We estimate that, well, right now we have about 1,000 acres of koa forest left in that 56,000 acres. We believe that there used to be about 22,000 acres of koa forest in that area since long gone, over again over 150 years of cattle impacts to the area. And then, of course, we have been doing koa salvage sales. That's why we know where koa can grow and how valuable it can be. And we've 100-acre kind of sales. We've tested the waters and what can work up there for us, which is why the commission decided to get out of the cattle business exclusively and get into the coal business in a bigger way. Obviously, this is a long-term effort, 50, 100 years down the road. We have to grow the forest first. But we believe that that will be economically more sustaining, as well as environmentally more appropriate, as well as possibly create more jobs. Those 100-acre koa sales employed at least 5 full-time employees, which is the equivalent of the entire ranch, managing 42,000 of that 56,000. So the jobs are definitely there. And then the last thing, of course, is involving our beneficiaries of the trust. We're creating volunteer programs. We have a lot of our school kids go up and help us volunteer, as I said, collect seed. We're restoring areas, outplanting native plants, controlling gorse, helping us spray the weed that's up in there. So obviously want to involve our beneficiaries. The idea is as we grow the forest, as we grow that area, we're going to grow the generations to take care of it as well, because they'll be very familiar with it, they've invested in it. But the main reason I was invited here tonight was to talk about our sheep project, feral sheep management, basically. I'm sure most of you hunters know that there are sheep on our lands. There have been sheep on our lands for a long time. Some of the early mouflon breeds were introduced to our areas in the Wailuku River area. They still are there. They've been interbreeding and stuff. But about 3-4 years ago, we realized that the sheep herd in the Saddle Road area, basically this side of PTA and down into Nogritas Ranch, east, around the 60, or I'd say about the 20-mile marker, 23-mile marker, and then of course into Idaho. A lot of the sheep are coming and staying on our lands. And the reason for that is we do not have a hunting policy on Hawaiian homelands. I'm not quite sure why. I'm sure it goes back to the ranching days where we didn't want anybody just going on ranch lands and shooting wild animals without ranchers' permission, and as a result, taking an occasional cow. So as a policy, we don't have a hunting policy for hunting. You cannot manage land without managing the feral animals, though. I mean, you just can't let these animals run amok, because as you know, you've got a lot of issues about too many animals in the wrong place, and everybody comes down on hunting. That's not the hunter's problem, it's the animal's problem. They're overstocked. There's a carrying capacity that we're seeking. If we can get the right number of animals in the right place, we believe we can have both, which of course provides food to our beneficiaries. So about 3-4 years ago, I asked Oahu how we should deal with this now that the ranch was gone and the ranch was no longer taking care of it themselves. And we went through a series of ideas, and basically it turned out it needed to be a beneficiary project. We needed to include our beneficiaries in the decision making, in the solutions, and that's how we proceeded. Some of you may have seen this picture before. This is the large pools there are the pools right along Saddle Road. You basically go between them with the new location. If you took the old Saddle Road, though, you would come behind them. It's not in this picture. This was actually taken from what's called Pu'unene, which is actually dealing our property, but our boundary is right in that area. And you can see in the distance there some sheep, and there's a nice picture of some sheep. We did some demographics on, okay, sheep reproduction, how fast they have lambs, and average mortality, and there's very little research on this, but going back and looking at what was done on sheep, we created this spreadsheet which would include all of those demographic constraints as well as advantages, and we believe that this is what would happen if the herd was unmanaged at this point. And we've seen that in the last 3-4 years, with the exception of perhaps the last year, but certainly up until 2013 and 14, we had a good herd of 900 to 1,000 animals on our property on a regular basis. And why were they there? Well, hunting pressure drove them onto that. If I'm a sheep, I'm not stupid. I'm not going to stick around and let somebody shoot me. I'm going to go where it's safe. And because there was no hunting on our lands, they went into our lands and could be comfortable there, being unharassed, and that's where they tended to go. And especially during breeding season. So I want to pause real quickly here, if I could, and just give you an idea of a video that I've shared with our commission as well as our homesteaders, just to give you an idea. Again, those are the pools in the back. This is looking from Sheep Station towards PTA. This was just one day a couple years ago. I went in there and all the herd was breeding, and I just took my camera and decided to film them for, I think this is about a 20-second clip. So you can see we've got lots of sheep to deal with. And if we don't deal with them, they'll continue to do their thing and cause problems. The pools, unfortunately, are pretty much bare now, especially over by PTA. The only thing that tends to grow there is fireweed. And of course, that's not a very acceptable way to treat the land. So, item on the legacy plan, This is the full 56,000 acres. You can Google this online. You can see this map. You can see how we have tried to balance the land use up there between commercial coal forestry, forest control. The green areas are conservation areas where we've created bird quarters to allow native birds to migrate back and forth like they used to. Not significant areas, but enough that we feel we can help get the job done. And then of course we have pasture areas. The yellow areas are pasture areas. We can't eat koa trees. You have to have some food. And what we want up there is tame cattle that are pastured animals, ranch animals, not feral cattle.
Excuse me, sir, can you up the volume and also maybe point out exactly the pink area, the green areas, so I really can't understand. I can't see it.
They can't see it.
Yeah, and I apologize again because normally I have a mouse here and I use the mouse, but my mouse broke today.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm afraid if I touch this bugger, it's really gonna screw up. But I will try and raise my voice. And this particular map is not as important as what we're gonna get on. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's projecting on there properly. A lot of the screen is getting cut off on this side. And that side looks okay, but this side's cut off for some reason.
That's the one they're looking at.
Yeah. So maybe this would be better, and then I'll try and speak louder, okay? But that's the area, that little square is where we're going to focus the rest of this discussion on, okay? And we try and blow them up so they're easier to see. But as you can see, we have a P1 pasture and an M2 Mamani restoration area, okay? In this particular area. The C1 talks about commercial area, that's our sheep station area. We have 150 acres designated for commercial, like ecotourism, horseback trail riding, that kind of thing. Again, to help pay the bills. Our demonstration game management is within that boundary right there. It includes some restoration areas as well as some pastured areas. It's a 1,560 acre total area. Includes the pools. You can see, if you can understand the topo maps, those lines that are close together represent the pools. This is an aerial photography, an aerial photograph, and you can see the pool is much clearer there. There's basically 5 of them on the left side there next to the PTA. There's 2 below Saddle Road and 3 above Saddle Road, the new location. You can see in the lava field at the bottom on this screen, you can see the old Saddle Road location. And that pool right against there is Pool Netting. This area right here. So this is Pool Netting, this old Saddle Road. New Saddle Road comes up through here. These 2 are below on the Mauna Loa side. These 3 are above on the Mauna Kea side of Saddle Road. Now, we divided this into 3 projects. One is hunting, roughly 694 acres. It's in the flat areas. There's a lot of rock and a lot of hiding places in there, especially when we start to restore the vegetation in there. But talking with our hunting community, we feel that that could offer a fairly decent hunting area. And keep in mind, this is not your 10,000 acre hunting area. This is a demonstration. If we can figure out how to do it on this smaller area, we have another 40-some thousand acres to play with and maybe replicate it both here as well as other islands. So that was the intent of the commission, was let's figure it out in a small area, get it down right, and then extrapolate that to other areas both on this island where we have lands that are appropriate as well as other Hawaiian homelands. And maybe share with other departments that might want to do similar things. The other component is restoring the pools. We want to protect those pools. We want to start planting them. If you look at Pool Hula Hula, which is right there at the parking lot, the game check-in station, the left side is all koa. The top is mamani and other species. There's no reason that those fireweed-only pools on our lands can't look like that one down there, which of course we take a lot of pride in. If you're driving Saddle Road and you see these forests restoring themselves, it certainly would look like we're managing those landscapes properly. And there's no reason to have any animal up on top of those pools, in my opinion. Okay, and then we have a research, or basically a grazing study area. And this was, we have a grad student that's also a beneficiary, finishing his PhD. This was his idea. He believed that we should really be looking at, can we have native forest and some non-native forest obviously mixed in, but some primarily native forest that's occupied by sheep, and they can cohabitate, but how many sheep and how pristine is our native forest? Obviously, it's not going to be pristine native forest. Obviously, it's not going to be choked sheep, but somewhere in between is the correct answer. And that's what we wanted to use this demonstration grazing studies as. So, in combination, we're occupying this 1,560 acres. We're going to answer some questions about game management in this particular area. We're going to do some conservation by restoring the pools, and we're going to provide hunting opportunities for our beneficiaries as appropriate in this area. Now, what I'd like to say at this point is we're no longer pursuing the hunting component. And the reason we're not is not that we don't want to hunt animals on our lands, but there's a glitch in the state law that apparently DHHL may not have the ability to hunt on our lands, control hunting on our lands. As I said earlier, DLNR board and DHHL board is exactly the same by law. But the laws were written prior to 1960, many of them, especially the wildlife laws. And so some of the laws have not caught up with today's reality, meaning that the commissioners, our commissioners following the Federal Act, and our beneficiaries who benefit from our trust do not have total control over how we manage our lands. For example, there was just a law passed where DHHL now will get geothermal royalties off of our lands. Prior to that, somebody else got the royalties off of our lands. So how can you manage trust lands for the benefit of a select group of people as designated by Congress if you can't control how you manage that land? You got to go hand in hand and ask somebody for permission to do something on your own land that you're responsible for. So until that issue is resolved, we're not hunting. But what we are doing is we're still going to manage the sheep herd. We're just not going to hunt the animals. We're going to trap them and give the meat away to our beneficiaries and volunteers that may help. So we're still going to manage that herd. We're just not going to go in and hunt them. It's an unfortunate opportunity because the hunting talked about teaching our younger generation how to archery hunt. We can't use rifles, it's too close to Saddle Road. But there's a whole plan to teach our kids with the Big Island Archery Club how to teach these younger kids to shoot bows and arrows, how to hunt properly, how to take care of the meat, how to restore some of their old hunting values that some older folks feel have been lost with the younger generation, or some of the younger generation. Guys out there cutting fence, guys out there hunting at night, guys out there taking whatever they want and leaving the rest. We won't be able to do that hunting, but we hope to start doing that through our game management project. This is the existing fence that was just put in surrounding Mauna Kea. So we used this boundary and used some of the resources that were already provided to us by DLNR. Fencing off this market area. We've created 4 subcommittees, recreation committee, aka hunting or game management, restoration, research, and revenue. Again, obviously this is going to cost some money to do. As I said earlier, this was the idea, archery only, youth taught archery skills and hunting ethics. We were going to allow youth 10 to 17 according to state law. We were going to follow DLNR's lead by having a hunter safety class and a valid hunter license. So that liability was covered through an existing program, DLNR's. And then what we were going to do was enter everybody into a lottery, everybody being our beneficiaries. They'd be entered into a lottery selected for a season, and they would be allowed to take a guest. The issue of, okay, what if I'm a beneficiary but my wife is not? Can she go with me? Well, we give first choice to the beneficiaries, and then that beneficiary gets to choose who they want to take. An old friend from Oahu, a schoolmate, a son who's not quite a beneficiary, whatever. But we felt that that was an appropriate way to approach this. And then seasons would be about 8 to 15 days and include 2 weekends. If we ever get the hunting laws changed, that's probably the direction we'll go, so that's why I want to share this with you. This is the same presentation we gave to our beneficiaries around the island, every community association, as well as 2 formal beneficiary consultations. So this is not hidden information. I think it's appropriate to share with the general public as well. Our restoration, native plants primarily, with an emphasis on Iliahi, Ikoko, Mamani, and again, I think we could add koa to that mix. We think that we could hire crews to do this and volunteer groups as well, because we have volunteers operating very nicely in other parts of our land doing reforestation and restoration. We also thought that hunters could volunteer to give back. You know, you're not hunting all day, so maybe, you know, you go hunt in the morning, maybe you get your animal early, instead of going home and put it in a cooler or whatever, and then you go plant some trees, and that way would be a good way to give back. You've taken something, now you're giving something back. The research, how many sheep can the land support? Can the herd be improved? We wanted to improve the genetics of this herd. We wanted to take the worst, leave the best. For years, between the poaching and the hunting, we have some pretty nasty looking animals in this group. Old age, ugly, no horns, whatever. So the first roundup that we're going to plan on doing would sort them out, and we would keep about 400 of the best animals and give away for food the rest. And then in the research, we figured we'd use 50 to 100 of those and up to 20 paddocks over about 3 years, again, to figure out what they eat, what they don't eat. The goal was, and this was a pie in the sky, can we train sheep to only eat non-natives and leave the natives alone? I doubt that, but why not dream big, right? Okay, just to show you the brain power behind the research thing, this was a little thing that our PhD pursuer is put together, which again we wanted to share. He's a beneficiary in the Pontiac area. I think we have the right people in the right place to make this happen, given the opportunity. Now, and I share this with you folks too. What can I do? Well, you can volunteer. You can. Leonard Tanaka is our recreation or our hunting person on this side. Cheyenne Perry, who manages the Mauna Kea Watershed Alliance, is our restoration guide, and Kealoha Kinney is our research guide. If you want to share some information with me either tonight or later, you can contact me directly, or one of our subcommittee chairs if you feel more comfortable talking with maybe a friend of yours or somebody you know. And then, you know, help us do it. Plant the trees, build the fence, apply to hunt if that no longer applies, but you can help us make it happen. And these are some kids that we've involved in one of our restorations in the bird border. And again, we're just trying to get the next generation placed to do some good things for the land. That's it.
Do you have time for a couple of questions?
Absolutely.
I have 2 questions, and the rest of the group here, you have.
Pretty much done, Tom.
You better?
Am I going to need to refer to the PowerPoint or I'll just close
No,
this
no,
up? Okay.
I don't believe so. You made a statement that, well, 2 questions. You said the managed versus the hunting. You're meeting paddocks and giving away meat. How long a process is that liable to take? Or, I mean, do you ever see that coming to where you will have a hunting program?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to pursue legislation this year. I've looked at both sides of the law, and I think just a simple paragraph which emulates the Chapter 171, which describes public lands. It says DLNR is in charge of all public lands except Hawaiian homelands, federal lands, that kind of thing. But you go to chapter, I believe it's 183, which is the hunting laws, and it says DLNR controls all hunting on state lands or state. So, but that exclusion clause is not written in the back there. So there's a disconnect between those 2 sections of the law, and I think it would be very easy to improve 183 to replicate what 171 says.
We want to be able to help you with that. if you'd like.
Yeah, be glad to take any.
I have another question, Jerry. When you talked about, you said the hunting law 7 days a week. You said you couldn't do 7 days, you couldn't do weekends only, did I hear you correctly? Is that what you're?
No, we were talking specifically, if we ever get to do hunting, we were talking about having 2 seasons a year. One in the spring and one in the fall. Talking about maybe ewes in the spring and rams in the fall. And they would last, again, we projected how many hunters we could accommodate. So basically, I think it was like 6 hunters per day, like 3 lottery guys and their guests. And you'd have 1 day to get your animal. If you didn't get your animal, that was it. You'd have to wait another year and put your name back in the lottery. So we felt the success would be pretty easy up in that country. And I think we could accommodate 60 hunters per year based on the success ratio. 75%. I didn't include all the details, but we took a good, strong look at the analysis. And to reduce that herd down immediately and then maintain it between, I think it was 350 to 425 animals, which we felt was a good carrying capacity, which again, the research would verify or not verify. We could adjust that. We also thought maybe if we could improve that habitat a little bit, maybe we could gradually up the numbers. And then of course, controlling wild dogs and poaching and all that other mortality issue. We could then add more hunters as we improve the area.
Okay, I think I misunderstood you when you said you needed to change the rules for hunting in that area, the 7 days a week.
Yeah, I didn't either intend that it's 24/7, well not 24, but 7 days a week, no, 365 no.
Yeah, wait, I have a few questions. This is Tony speaking. Mike, who in DHHL is going to actively work to address the no hunting law, whether it's legislation or whatever that is? I mean, is there someone?
Well, right now I'm kind of taking the lead on it. I want to, obviously we have legislative people in Oahu that take the lead for the department. What I had intended to do is just talk to some of our local legislators at first about it, kind of get a consensus that it needs to be changed. I'm sensing that there's an unofficial consensus that it doesn't seem fair to us as a separate trust. But as you know, until things work their way through systems, the politics and the liability and the legalities and all those issues, until those can get resolved, there's no guarantees. So this is just a concept that we've been thinking about past 3 months, but with the next session coming up, we hope to go into that with a stronger position.
Okay, well, with that said, why couldn't that area be leased if that was the case? Because Kipukai no Ho is leased for hunting, and that's DHHL land. And I haven't been able to get an answer to why is that area okay to lease for hunting, and we have active hunting there, and yet we can't replicate that in any of these other areas here.
I think,
in the interim, at least, until you guys have
yeah,
resources to reforest or do whatever you're doing.
yeah, I think some of the things I've heard is that okay, we're the 3rd largest landowner in the state with 210,000 acres. DLNR is the largest landowner in the state with 1 million+ acres. It's interesting that they have to lease some of our lands, 5,000 acres, to have a hunting program. That didn't sit very well. That lease expired in 2012, and I think it was recently renewed. I argued that it should be released to DLNR. There was people within the department that felt that we should stop that public use of our trust lands because we have so few trust lands to use in the first place. But I felt that that would not be a good decision in the near term, and I advocated for having that lease renewed. adding to that land, I think there'd be an extreme outcry by our beneficiaries. How come you guys gotta use our lands when you have your own lands? So, now in the future, I'm hoping that by the time the Kipuka lands come up for lease again, that we will have helped others figure out how to manage lands for both native species as well as introduced feral animals, game animals. That may be a tall order, it may be optimistic, but it's a path that I think we need to proceed with. And so I think if we went in and said, oh, let's just let somebody else manage our herd for us, I think the beneficiary would be very upset about that.
What is the term of that lease?
I'm not sure, in fact, I don't even know if the lease is been renewed.
It's a revocable month-to-month lease right now.
Well, and those RPs, it's probably a right of entry, because our RP process was ended a year ago, and those RPs were reissued as right of entry. So there's a term limit on that. Not sure what it is. I know the original lease was 15 years, but I'm not sure what this recent lease is, or right of entry. Assuming that's what it is.
And I have a couple of other ones, if you don't mind. The grazing study, who is actively pursuing that?
Kealoha Kinney is doing his PhD work.
Oh, okay. And
He's not
then-
actively doing it, we're still trying to get the area set aside.
Right, yes, okay. When you do the meat, I'll give away, I'll just use that term for right now. Is that something going to be done in increments so that it can be distributed properly? I mean, you guys are not going to corral and trap, 200 animals one time and try to get rid of them. Whereas doing it maybe 20, 30 at a time so that it...
Correct, and obviously we have to get that meat distributed to our beneficiaries.
Yes.
And figure out a system where folks come and get it and take it home and treat it properly
Right.
and take care of it. Yes.
And then one thing, a little bit away from the hunting section, but just curious as to what is the status of the gorse, I guess, removal or?
Well, I gave a presentation to this committee last year about the gorse.
Yeah, how's it coming? Just a quick
Same
update.
same old, we're pounding away at it. We did get a slight increase in our budget this year. In fact, I finally think I might be able to hire somebody to help me this year, to take over that course project and free me up to do some things.
And how many acres was that course?
Well, right now we have, I would say we have about 10,000 acres of intensive course. But we have gorse spread over about 20,000 acres, and that could be one single plant a mile from the next plant. But we have a lot of gorse.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. This is Willie Joe. Just thank you for coming in and giving a presentation. Has the DLNR, have you had talks with them as far as maybe trying to relocate some of these sheep? What do you see from them?
Well, very early on in the planning stages, obviously DLNR has been at the table from very early on, and are actually helping us with some of the materials issues and things like that. We keep in the loop sister agencies, neighbors up there. Obviously, it's important that we involve them in what we're doing, or at least keeping them aware of what we're doing. But early on, there was talk about relocating some of these animals elsewhere. Again, personally, I think that's a little premature. I mean, yeah, we'll give you all the junk soup you want, but in my opinion, we would much rather have good animals to share, not bad animals to share. And I'm sure, given the situational amount of K, any sheep is a good sheep these days because there's so few of them, perhaps, compared to 20 years ago. But in that sense, I just suggest patience. And let us continue to develop this herd and grow good animals that we feel proud about giving away and sharing. So that's kind of my response to the concept of giving someone away immediately.
Okay.
I get. Okay, Kalani right now. When you say the economy part, the core, so who manages the whole cost situation?
I have in the past, the three core sales I've managed.
So basically, that land that you gonna plant that coin, you guys gonna be, you telling me that DHHL will be overseeing everything, they're not going to sublease them to a company that will take care of it, so it's all gonna be DHHL?
That's correct.
Roughly, right?
The idea is either DHHL staff will manage it, or DHHL beneficiaries will manage it via licenses, eventually homesteads. I mean, that's our mission, to put Native Hawaiians back on that landscape. It would be very easy to take solid gorse, divide it into 10-acre parcels and say, go have a Paneavapan place. But giving some guy 10 acres of solid gorse is not.
Well, no,
much
what
of a deal.
I'm referring to is like, is it a Bishop Estate kind of thing where you planting all these like eucalyptus trees and Bishop Estate subleases to like, Forest Solutions in that kind of manner? That's how we're looking at this core, because of the acreage that is compounding and then funding.
Yeah.
Probably you're not gonna have for a lot of years.
Yeah, well,
Managed.
the COA, specifically the COA, we're managing that right now. I think that'll probably stay within the department. As I said, we're trying to engage our beneficiaries in the management of that land, either as volunteers or as vendors, or as contractors. For example, 2 of the 3 sales we had went to a Native Hawaiian from Keakaha, and he managed those sales really well. I've done logging most of my life in many places. That's part of my background as a forester. And I have to admit, he's one of the best loggers I ever had, just because he had that cultural instinct to take care of the land as well as get something from it, utilize it, but still take care of it. And you can go back to those sales today, 7 years ago and 3 years ago.
Well,
and
yeah,
look at it.
I mean, I'm not stopping you now, but I kind of know the whole core situation being from Kahu. And there is a law that you cannot cut live pork. It has to die fall before you can actually utilize it.
There's a
So
law,
that's-
there's a
that-
law
that's-
that
Oh,
says
yeah,
you
you
can't
cannot
do
cut core trees down.
Oh,
You
and
cannot.
what,
You have to make sure that it's dead, it fell on its own. You
Uh,
cannot go out there and just cut.
so,
But, I mean, that's why I'm saying, manage wise, who's doing this?
yeah, so, well, first of all, maybe if you could quote me where that law is, it'd be good for me to know that, because I'm not aware of that law. But I'm not quite sure of your question about managing the COA.
Well, like for instance, like in our district, and I know the sheep and the hunting is part of the whole thing, but see, what's happening is, to get to, you creating one place of hunt, but then it's gonna revolve around is, can we make enough money, like how you were saying about economic wise for, pay the bills. So basically what I'm referring to, and a lot of times people don't realize is, when we start subleasing them, and for these guys to actually manage it, because they pay you to manage, you know what I mean, not you in particular, but it's more like I will pay you so I can manage. And what could happen is, I make the rules. So if,
Excuse me,
so-called
you being the
beneficiaries.
guy paying us makes the rules?
Huh?
You being the guy
Well, because
paying
then I
us
become the
makes the
VC,
rules?
I become the stakeholder, I become the guy that's the caretaker
Hmm.
overall.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you're saying they make the rules?
Well, in a sense, they're gonna follow your rules, but in a sense, they're gonna start putting up their own gates. And they're gonna start locking them up, and they're gonna start doing those kind of aspects to it all.
Yeah, that's not a model that we have dealt with yet.
And that's what I mean, because
the
this is
reason
just
I-
what growth, right?
I'm
No, this
sorry.
is what growth, and that's what I'm trying to refer to it as, saying that we have to have this type of things in place. I mean, that was a good presentation, sir, and I love it, but I kinda like just know where this core thing is going, and number 2 is just who's the beneficiaries. I mean, really, who is considered a beneficiary? I mean, how do you determine a beneficiary? Is it that 50% blood quantum, or is it a local and being born and raised in Hawaii? What do you consider beneficiary?
2 questions, let me address both of them if I may. All right, just 2, I'll go from there. I'll take the first one first, COA salary sales. the department controls what happens on its land. We have a very strong contract approved by the Attorney General, administered by me particularly as administrator, but someone else who could administrate in the same way. Very tight. Not this loosey-goosey, here's your land, one page, go have fun, see you in 50 years' time like we used to have. That's what I brought to the table, my background. We've had no problems on our coal sales. You can go out there and look at that coal forest today and you'll see a much improved coal forest. Even though we've removed up to 70% of the coal off the land, we left 30% behind for the next generation. And we left the biggest and best behind. The loggers hated it. The big 40-inch trees are still up there because that's the kind of genetic we want up there in that forest. We took the dead and the dying, the sick, basically like you manage the sheep herd. You leave the best behind, you take the worst, and every generation you have a better forest. But that requires tight contracts, tight licenses, which we've created and we followed, I think, successfully for 3 times now. Now, who is a beneficiary?
Well, can I stop you now?
Sure.
So now, that means you had sales done already with this call.
Correct.
And did you actually stipulate the revenues that was brought in to the department?
Yes.
This call?
Yes.
Do you have that on file?
Yes.
And where was it sold to?
Well, 2 were to Pagi Hulama, Stanford Hulama, and Keakaha, and 1 was to, I forget the Koa Inc., again, locally born people. I think they were connected with Kamaka Ukuleles on Oahu, was a partner, and then the local logger was, I think, one of the Winkler boys. Now, as far as who's a beneficiary, the federal law determined that. The federal law specifically says that the trust beneficiaries at the Department of Homelands are 50% or higher blood quantum. I believe recently it was changed to say that you could pass that homestead, if you had a homestead, onto a child of 25% blood quantum. I think that was recently changed the last 5-7 years, something like that. But all we do is we implement what the law tells us to do, and that's how beneficiaries are defined.
So basically, you guys understand, right? So I can go, you guys cannot.
Unless you take them as a guest.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I just was thinking as a whole.
I have one, this is Tony, I have one more question on the restoration side. And I read through that Aina Mauna Legacy program, and there was a part, maybe I misunderstood, but there's a portion in there called preferred alternatives, and it says to provide easements or lease to organizations such as the Nature Conservancy to assist in restoration. So I was wondering, how would like the TNC establish a lease on Hawaiian Homes land? That's
Yeah, I don't think it would be a lease. I think that was probably, again, I'd have to look at the exact language, but I think it was probably referring to them as one of our partners, in that they have expertise in restoration, and if we needed their expertise, we would bring them in as an assistant to helping us develop proper restoration tools. To date, we haven't had to do that. Again, Cheyenne Perry, who's the Mauna Kea Watershed Alliance, who's also a beneficiary of the trust, has kuleana for some of our restoration efforts. He's bringing the kids up there, teaching them both protocols for both restoration, cultural protocols, etc. So we want to involve our beneficiaries, as I said earlier, as much as possible. Only when we fail to do that will we go outside and bring in folks like TNC.
Thank you.
I have a question, or a statement. First of all, thanks for coming and sharing with us the information. The second point I want to make is that I wanted to thank you because I find it sort of refreshing that a state agency is finally doing some game management, or at least proposing to do that. And so I'm hoping you guys have a lot of success. And I'm hoping that the transfer of the technology is is easy and easily transferable. So I just want to thank you.
Mahalo.
He echoed my, one of the comments that I was gonna make, because I feel that also is important. We don't have a state that is, actively involved in any kind of management process, really. We don't, you're trying to see what the carrying capacity is, and some of these other issues are, how much game can be in certain types of habitat, in certain types of plants, and so forth, and I encourage that as well, and I applaud you for that. Before I let you go, I have one question on that lease with Kipukana. Who is that actually done with in the state? Is that with land management?
Well, I think it's Department of Land and Natural Resources. I'm not sure it's probably specific to the Department of Land and Natural Resources at that level rather than the Division of Forestry and Wildlife.
No, I understand. Oh, you didn't do that directly with them?
No,
I see.
no.
Mr. Sherman.
Mr. Chairman, sorry. Can I address the guest? Just 2 points of clarification. When you say beneficiary, Hawaiian home beneficiary is anyone with 50% blood quantum, right? It's not a lessee, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and the second question I had is, are these state lands or federal lands? I understand that they're federal lands managed by a state agency.
Oh, I really don't know the answer to that question. I do know that they are part of the state inventory, so I would consider them closer to being state lands than federal lands.
Okay. Thanks.
I get this one more question. When you say, you have a commission in place, I mean, can I kind of question who it is and how many do you have on this commission and what is the background?
You mean our commissioners?
Yeah.
We
And
have,
your advisors, right, the
yeah.
commission?
Oh, well, are you talking our Hawaiian Homes commissioners that make our decision-making body?
No, I mean, just in particular, just what you're doing right here with this family.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think I showed you their names up there.
Just
Leonard-
those individuals?
Excuse me?
Just those individuals right there?
Yeah, it's a small group, hopefully representative of the areas. But we have an advisory group. We've had as many as 20, 30 people show up at one time, and probably 60–70% of those are beneficiaries. From Kau, I forget the gentleman that used to be coming up from Kau, one of your larger cattle guys down there. And he was popping in on a couple meetings, maybe a year and a half ago, as this plan unfolded and developed. But over time, like any project, people come, they're curious, they're concerned, they're interested, and when they see things going a certain way, they drop out, either because they feel they have nothing to contribute, or they're comfortable with the way it's gone, or for whatever reason. And we're back to, the usual 7, 8 people that are making things happen for the rest of folks. We're always open. We're more than happy to include anybody who wants to come and share their know or how they feel about things. More than willing to do that. The idea, of course, and this has evolved rather nicely, I think, in presenting to the commission for their approval, which hasn't happened because of the hunting issue. We talked about how can we make sure, and this is an island-wide initiative originally, how we're going to give them away, for example. We don't want to just to give it to Hilo or Waimea because they're the guys showing up at all the meetings. I mean, it's hard for somebody from Kau to come up here on a regular basis. So the idea was that we would try and have a representative from each community association, Hawaiian Community Association, be it Kau, Anieva, Keakaha, Waimea, Kona, whatever, who could come to these meetings, learn what's going on, learn that, okay, next September we're going to have another reduction in herd. We have an estimated 100 animals that we've learned will be available. How can we give them out in a Pono proper kind of way so that everybody gets their fair share? And I think we even talked about 70 or 60% of the animals would be given to the volunteers as a reward for coming up and sharing their malama with us and helping it make it happen. But 30% would go to community association because maybe you're too old to too frail to come up, you still get some meat. You know, the kupuna still gets some meat. So we wrestled with what those formulas would be to make sure it would be as fair as possible. So not everybody on the advisory committee is around the state, around the island, I should say, but we certainly hope that we can get all districts on the island interested in what we're doing and at some point participating.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much for this meeting.
Thanks for having me.
Okay,
Can I ask a
we're gonna move
couple
on.
questions? Or, Tom,
Oh, yes.
if you wouldn't mind a couple quick questions? Margaret Willie, Council. Would all of, if you did all the hunting, would it all be bow and arrow in that area? You can't do anything?
Yeah, absolutely. It's too crowded an area.
And, if there was hunting, my sense is there's demand for pretty much all of what you could allow. I mean, there's a great demand for the, to do the hunting.
That's correct.
And, you have problems with if they were trying to work out some kind of lease in the meantime? I mean, even if it says under, 183, like, to lease it in the meantime till you get it written the way you want it written?
We're ready to implement this project this year. In fact, I've been designing the trap. We hope to install the trap over the next couple of months. We hope this coming breeding season we'll be able to reduce that herd significantly with several events, several trapping events. And we hope to implement this project very quickly.
And, I appreciate just when it's convenient to see that legal language. I mean, I've studied a lot of this on the public lands, and then, at least put in my 2 cents. Especially section under HRS 171, the federal emissions law now.
171 and chapter 183, those
Yeah,
are
I
the two
was-
I'd compare.
Okay. And then, the question that was raised over here in terms of the illegality to cut koa, I keep hearing this, but I haven't seen where it is, what it is, and where, I think it would be good to get to the bottom of that. Sort of if you look in the newspapers, they'll say it's illegal to cut live koa, and, you all are doing this. I mean, it may be that it's state land, but you all are able to because you're on trust land, so I'd just like to perhaps follow up on his question, if you could help, find that out. Anyway, thank you, very much. I'd like to see all that legalese, and I might be able to help.
Thank you.
Two questions. I volunteered at one of the fence pulling day.
Right?
It's kind of cool, so I got interested in the Hawaiian plan, and I went and read the environmental assessment of the Hawaiian plan. And I'm assuming the environmental assessment is the governing document for the area and what you can do with it. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's pretty close, yes. I mean, the environmental assessment is the vetting of the impacts and everything, and that's kind of what we follow when we implement anything.
Because it states, I don't know where in the environmental assessment it states that the intention of this is not game management and it is removal. There's a certain page in there somewhere in the environmental assessment that clearly states that. And there's no mention of, of course, the pilot project that you're trying to do. So I don't know how is it gonna stay formal in the sense that, the EA doesn't come back later and say, we can't do this because we didn't EA this.
Actually, there's several references to game management in there, and we talk about managing animals. We also talk about eradicating them in certain areas, the bird quarters, for example. But there is language in there which we feel is allowing us to do this.
Okay. And then second one would have been the growing of coal, the same as they were talking about, being that there are these bird corridors and these bird species. If these rare birds end up in your guys' logging forest, does it suddenly become full of trees that you cannot log in, designated maybe critical habitat or something else along those lines? I don't know. Does it prevent you guys from logging out suddenly?
Let's hope not, but we have 50 to 75 to 100 years to figure that one out, because we don't have any mature coal forest anymore. So basically, we're in a restoration mode entirely. And then, of course, on a lot of that 22,000 acres, we have gorse. So we have to get rid of the gorse first before we even get COA started on those lands.
Yeah.
So this is a very long-term project, but again, this is a Hawaiian trust. Native Hawaiians think generations down the road. I'm very proud that this is a 100-year plan, and that they're willing to think at least that far. Hopefully, they'll be thinking the same way 700, 800 years from now. That we got to restore the land, take care of it, feed ourselves, make it productive, et cetera, et cetera.
So the large bulk of revenue will be the full log.
No, absolutely not. The large bulk of the revenue is going to be the 150 acres at Saddle Road, Mauna Kea Access Junction, where all the tourists go. And we believe that, there's no reason why in that very small footprint of 150 acres out of 56,000 acres, we can create jobs for the homesteaders. We have 1,000 acres already designated as homestead sites, with another 1,000 acres to back that up. So we believe we can do that.
Actually, I have well, it's not a question for Ryan, but just to kind of piggyback on what you said, Waiakea Forest Reserve did that many years ago, where they stripped the forest and they replanted. And today, they can't cut that lumber down because of the native recruitment that occurred in the understory with hundreds of pigs in that area. They still had a lot of native recruitment. And now you can't harvest that forest because a lawsuit by Sierra Club, because there's a native species within that area now, and it's definitely what's going to happen to a lot of these other areas if we reforest. And once the native forest kicks in the underscore, you're not going to be able to log. So just keep that in mind, like that happened with Waiakea Forest Reserve.
And those trees were planted for the express purpose of cutting down.
That's correct.
Can I ask you one more real quick question?
Sure.
What state land use district are those properties?
They're almost all,
I know, Marvin.
there's a small area of conservation, they're almost all agricultural lands.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well,
Tom, I have one question. For Mike. Mike.
You know, that there was, Don Thomas was doing exploratory drilling in the Hula area, and they thought the water there was very deep, and to their surprise, they found water at 500 feet. So the Army is not interested in drilling a well from Papua, but if there's water found at shallower depths, will that affect your plans for the area?
No, absolutely not. In fact, water is an issue up there. Having a well or two would be very helpful for many reasons. But our homesteads were located in an area that the rainfall, you could be on catchment and no problem. You could be off grid easily in that country. And not as nice as a feel, of course, with running water out of the county system. But you could be off grid up there and live comfortably. Sure.
Hey Mike, this is Paul Goodman. I have some questions on the flood quantum. How many people actually do have in the state of Hawaii 50% flood?
I don't know, but I can tell you that right now, I just saw the numbers, I think it was in the paper the other day, and I'm going to estimate them. I think we have roughly 9,000 beneficiaries on homestead lands. They actually are homesteaders. And then I believe our waiting list is something like 26,000, and that's growing every day. So I would say probably at least 35, and if you looked outside, maybe as many as 50,000 people meet that criteria. And keep in mind, not all beneficiaries of the trust are as defined as 50% blood quantum. Not every beneficiary elects to be a part of Hawaiian Homelands. They have to go through a vetting process to be designated eligible for our homesteads. Some folks don't want to be a part of that, and so there may be an unknown number of beneficiaries that have not signed up and registered with Hawaiian Homelands. So I really can't answer your question.
No, I just wanted to understand the potential numbers that are.
I could kind of relate to them. She brought out that list, it's people over 60 years old. As far as just who is they not wanting to be on the list, well, they're on the list. But with Hawaiian Homelands, you have to be financially stable, meaning you need a good paying job in order to become a homestay. You have to have a plan in place on how you will utilize the land. That is one of the criteria in order for you to acquire the land. And that is the biggest problem right now with Hawaii. Just to let you guys know.
Okay, if there's,
Yeah, so the follow-up question to that was, on the salvage of the animals, are those ones that are only opened up to the beneficiaries themselves? You guys said you guys maybe culling letters and getting rid of the bad genetics.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, we don't have enough beneficiaries to give them away, then we'll have to look at Plan B. But I'm guessing that the beneficiaries will show up, and have friends or family they can share with. Again, that was always a premise from day one when this first question came up, who gets the meat kind of thing. The beneficiaries involved early on in the process said, we have a law, we share. If we have enough. If we don't have enough, we may not share, but if we have enough, yeah, no problem, we're gonna share.
And then the volunteers themselves that you're looking for, you also mentioned that you guys were thinking about dividing it among the volunteers also that come up for this.
Yeah, that was the plan too. So, if we're up there building the traps or we're putting in the fences or we're actually doing the wrangling, again, you want to contact Leonard and sign up. And if he has space for you, like Brian, coming a couple of weeks ago, which we really appreciated. We had some students come, obviously not beneficiaries, but they're more than welcome to join us. As far as I'm concerned, they're entitled to something. Now, again, it's not my decision. I'm leaving all this in the hands of our beneficiaries to make those kind of decisions, who gets what.
So for these individuals like Leonard and Kehoa, do you have their contact information or did you hear from you?
Yeah, I can share with you. Actually, let me give you my phone number, and then you can call me, and then maybe I could, or email me if you want. But then I'd be glad to share you their phone
I'll get it from
number.
you after.
Yes, 895-1285 is my cell number.
Thank you, Mike.
moving on here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Did you mind?
Turn the mic off, will you? Mike?
Turn this one on. That's all.
Mike, can you turn the mic off? Yeah, it's off.
Yes. You want to move on to it? Okay, we have approval of minutes for May 19, 2014, and also June 9, 2014. We have the May 29th minutes here. Are there any corrections anybody wants to make?
I have a comment on the minutes. One of them was that we didn't follow through, and there was a motion, I believe, to advise the mayor to conduct a uniform practice comprehensive public access plan for the county of Hawaii, whether it be on public or private land. The request involves the dedication of financial resources on part of the county for a consultant to do this, and extensive public outreach program and dedication of staff to manage the project. So that was moved by us, but I don't know who's supposed to take that initiative, get that going.
I actually was going to bring that up tonight.
Oh, okay.
But we are going to have a meeting with David Penn on our next August meeting. He's taking Joe's place. So I was wondering whether it would not be his Juliana actually to look into this for the public-private on land, whether he has that as part of his job.
Oh, okay, so we'll wait till we consult with him first before we
Since we brought it up.
address
Yes.
the mayor. Okay, thank you, Tom.
Any other comments on the May 29th meeting? We approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes, the May 19th.
Second.
So that was Willie Joe moved and Ike second.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, moved and seconded, we adopt the meeting. June
Did
9th,
somebody oppose?
no opposed.
I heard oppose and aye.
There's snow on my eye.
Sorry.
I believe, Bobby, you have the June 9th meeting?
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Done yet?
I left
We'll
it
bring
at
it up
home.
the next
I
meeting.
apologize, I'll bring it to the next meeting.
All right,
I
very
really
good.
apologize for that.
Okay, June 9th minutes will be at the next meeting. Okay, I'm gonna close this. Any public testimony on the agenda items from anybody? Yes.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Just the mic,
Really?
Okay, just a couple of questions, I know it's on the agenda item, but, and maybe goes to roll call, I wanted to ask about the vacancy in District 9. I know there's one in District 7 and District 9. I don't know whether you have somebody already lined up, I'd really like to have someone in there and like to work on that, but if you said, no, we've got somebody, so I just wanna work with you and make sure we get somebody on right away. So I know, certainly a lot of interest in my district on these issues, and, I guess saying that would be Drew's, the other district that you don't have any. Another thing just that came up in the report last week before the council, just sort of coordinating, I think that this is a mayor's commission, and Bobby Command, I think, is working here. I feel that we sort of was a little bit disjointed. In other words, you're not sort of under some particular commissioner group of the council or who, so, I don't want to end up happening again where we're there ready to do a report and you all don't even know that you should be there, and how would you communicate? So I just feel that it's important going forward to coordinate. I'm happy to help on the council level. I don't want to be stepping on anyone's toes, but I do feel that the more we proceed in this, from where my meetings with Tony early on, the better. And I think that my sort of focus is getting you all involved on the bottom floor of discussions and not waiting for, here's what we decided, how do you like it? Also, there's a discussion in terms of money, so I really sort of wanted to hear about the budget on that and see where the county comes in, and I discussed this some with Mr. Young and really can, just so we coordinate and what can we as a council do and looking towards it. I think what I stressed to Mr. Young is that I'd really like to see, money so that you all really have the educated or have the skills or the knowledge or able to go to various conferences and really be able to speak and make sure that that you're able to have an impact and understand and appreciate whether it's the Sierra Club or how the birds fly up those corridors. I mean, that was my question. Do they know that those are for
3
them?
minutes.
Anyway, so the more you all are, I feel, a very committed group and able to do this and work with this. I find it very hard to believe that hunting program can't be proceeding right away. And I'm surprised that he doesn't have better knowledge of what those laws are. And I certainly am not great, but I've studied them. Anyway, so just to be supportive and the more we can coordinate and I'm helping to find new funds, that'd be great. And I definitely want somebody District 9. I've got Willie over here, I can go see him, but we really should have someone from District 9.
Yeah. I kind of have somebody who's interested, but definitely if you,
So why don't I just talk to you a little bit?
yeah,
And
but if
I
you
just don't want-
have any other people in mind,
No, I
because
don't.
I've been trying
I just
for
want-
months now. And I
You
can't
have-
get anybody to come in, really.
Really?
So,
Okay.
Everybody's like temporary, like, oh yeah, I could
Yeah,
come
yeah,
a
yeah,
couple
but,
months. I'm like,
you know.
no, it's a little more than a couple months.
No, we want, right,
so,
yeah, we want people that then they can go and go to
Yeah,
conference
I-
and really have
I-
knowledge and be able to, have it.
but yeah, if you have anybody in mind,
Okay, I'll talk to you.
please,
later.
yeah.
I guess
Thank
what,
you.
what everybody gotta understand is.
I'm sorry,
it's
Doug.
voluntary. So there is no financial help on any.
Yeah, the
A lot of
process,
times
We wanna
guys
work
get
on that.
discouraged, yeah.
And I think, I don't know to what extent it was, Mark was there and Young was there at, the council meeting, and I had met with Young the day before and encouraging, you need to have funding here focusing, as I see it, on education and where you can become more informed. And a little bit less, if it was funding to go lobby this position or that. So I think I had some questions in that area, but that you go and then you're either present or you're left out of the conversation. And you want to be present on the level where you're really helping to form the policy and in a way that I think we talked about legitimate competing interests and that it's not saying no to any other group, but it's so how can we put this puzzle together in a way that we can move on and not have it be adversarial. Anyway, thank you very much.
the process is if you know someone who's interested, have them fill out a form and submit it to the mayor.
Yeah, so I just didn't want to be doing that if there was somebody already sort of lined up.
I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there anybody else having testimony?
Not necessarily testimony, but, to answer the question.
State your name.
Gino,
Come up here.
come up to the front, please. That's what I was trying to avoid. Sorry, I just came from the farm.
No problem.
Gino Inocencio. The red button, please. Gino Inocencio. Okay, regarding the representatives from the district, okay, I understand what a representative means, but does that person who represents the district have to be from the district or residing in that district in order to represent the people there?
Absolutely.
Then why not create an at-large if it cannot be fulfilled?
It have to be changed in the charter.
Then why not submit a change to the charter?
It's
So
too
that you
late to
can
do
have
that
those
this,
positions
electoral season. You have to wait 2 more years to do that.
2 more years. Is this something that can be administratively done on a temporary basis?
No.
You sure? No, that's basically what I wanted to say. So, but, for your consideration, you may want to consider that, creating that
We
large
are
commission.
actually.
We have.
But you have an island-wide cadre of friends, so, you can help us too by suggesting who should we go talk to, about some of this stuff. We'll talk to them and get them and help them keep them involved, until such time as we have an at-large to do that.
Well, I might take that into consideration also. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, what I wanna move is to, our next agenda item is the budget, our budget item. We got this tonight. And, I was just wondering, Bob, if you could, give us a brief over that, and we can work on this more thoroughly, but can you just give us a brief idea of how this budget is established? Is
Okay.
it established
And-
over what?
Right. The best way to put this is that when we were established, the mayor initially allotted $5,000 for this. Somewhere along the line, an additional $2,500 was added. I don't know if it was at the council level or wherever, but that doesn't matter. The line item in the budget last year was $7,500. The line item in this year's budget, $7,500. Line item in next year's proposed budget, estimated $7,500.
And what was it?
What was the total that we used this year? Out of the
According-
7,500?
According to this, it was what, 71, and I think you're owed a little bit of
Plus
money.
300 more coming to you.
You-
Yeah, I'm in there. That's the last one.
So,
Well, I don't know.
you, were you paid, are you,
Yes.
are we square?
Yeah, we're smart.
We were.
Don't let go of anybody money.
Oh, okay.
Might have to come to you for a loan. So we spent $7,100, I'm sorry, what was it? The exact amount? 71.53? So, and I'm anticipating your next question, which is, how do we prepare a budget for the next year, since the line item for next year is 7,500. And if I can suggest to you that, think about, these things aren't exact, right? You may go more to the legislature one year, you may not go the next year, you may go a few times the following year, but just think about what you did last year. Think about what you may be doing next year, and just trying to put together some sort of idea about how many times you're going to go, what are the expenses you're going to incur. If you want to send somebody to the caucus again, come up with some sort of idea about how much you're going to need, right? What, you know, I don't want to throw out any numbers or anything like that, but that's probably the best way to do that. And then when the time comes around, you guys are housed under the Office of Management, which is the mayor. You would go to the mayor and say, I think we're going to need this much next year, and make your argument, and based on that, he'll fill in the line item. Then it'll go to the council. Council will say yes, no. I don't know if you have line item veto or anything like that, power to do that. But anyway, that's the general way to do this.
On the budget, when is that caucus?
I believe it was in November. I was just trying to think about it.
Will you turn on your mic?
I believe it was in November. Yeah, we purchased, I guess by looking at this, it's October, November is when the purchases were made. I guess I'm a little bit confused on how to read this, so maybe Bobby can show me later.
Well, I have
Well, it's just a running tab of what you guys spent last year, yeah? Mostly trips to
Right.
legislature.
Right.
And you're on the second page, I believe. Oh, maybe you're
I'm
on
on the first
yeah,
page.
and the
That
second,
was
yeah.
one of our very first purchases there, actually.
You're right.
So the expenditures, that's just a running tab. Is that how that works, or that's just what was given out? Confused, because that 380, that first 380.81, where did that come from?
mileage. That's what
Oh,
they
yeah, but
charged them.
So like,
Yeah.
I have a question, so that mileage was paid out to somebody that wouldn't require mileage?
You can do it too.
Really? Nobody fill out a paper? I want to bank on this from the time we start.
Me and you both.
Okay, I get another question, this.
And that was pointed out to you at the very beginning,
Huh?
that you can claim
20
mileage.
grand, not
Most of
50.
you didn't,
yeah,
but apparently Cleon did.
Yeah,
Right.
I never get paperwork on mileage, I thought we just were doing volunteer, which is, that's okay. Okay, now I know this is the year 2014. $95 for cassette tapes. Do we even have cassette tapes nowadays? So what
That-
$90 mean, $95?
This fall, it was probably during the times we had, some of the meetings where they recorded it. I remember seeing a recorder, like several of the meetings, especially when we had, Chair Ayla, remember them tripping over the course a couple times to, record it.
So can we do that too, like with DVD or something? Because somebody will catch me on these 5/19/14 cassette tapes for game management. 95, 55. Kind of like questionable, in my opinion, but I question it myself. I know my days cassette tapes, but nowadays, somebody who gets with what is cassette tapes, small, yeah, but 95, 55 for something that, I just gotta ask them, that's all.
Can I suggest lines on the paper the next time? I can't read this thing at all. I'm sorry. Can we move on? Point of order or something? Thank you.
Okay, we're done with the budget. Tony has a update on the Hawai'i trails and access.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, this is Tony. I got an email from someone that sits on Alahele Council, and last year, I think it was October, November, we submitted a letter to the mayor addressing some access issues. We were working with Jordan Jokio from DLNR at that time, who was the access and acquisition coordinator. And we're looking at areas above Pepekio, Kole Kole, and Chincha for access. And then I got this on July 2nd, and I'll just read it real quick. It's an issue regarding hunting access to the Hilo Forest Reserve near our Kaka Falls. It's mentioned under council members' concerns. Apparently, the developer is working with DOFAR and the county to provide public hunting access and parking as part of a subdivision planning. I thought this was a good thing. You all may already be involved. If not, this might be in the interest of you and your council members. And then there's a tax map P of the area of the map, which is hard to read. It looks like it was an old plantation road that ended at the Hilo Forest Reserve. Also, Ron Bachman is the person at DOFAR that has been consulted by the county regarding this issue. A couple of questions on this. One is, we just met with the county, I think in May, and nobody even mentioned this. So, being a game commission, and we're like the last to know, I'd like to know how we could possibly remedy that, because this would have been quite interesting to add to our list of target areas to provide access to the forest reserve in that area to help the hunters and help the landowners in turn, by keeping the pigs in control in those areas. So I don't know if that's something we can discuss here, or how do we get mention of this, or who in the county is working on this? Maybe Bobby, could you help with that? Thank you.
And you're talking about public access.
Yeah, that's correct. This is to provide public hunting access and parking as part of the subdivision planning.
Yeah, that would be the planning department. And let me talk to Larry Brown about somehow being able to get some. Well, see, part of this is all of that is public record, right? But a lot of times it's hard to tell what each application says, right? Unless you look at every single application. But a lot of the public access issues are run through Larry Brown. So he might be able to at least give me a heads up, and then I can give you the heads up on the application. You guys can maybe review it, take a look at it.
Okay, yeah, that'd be good.
I'll talk to Larry about
Kind of
that.
embarrassing to be on the game commission and not even know
Right,
about
yeah.
some stuff, especially since we just talked about it 2 months ago. Thanks, Bobby.
I think it, this is like, I think it's part of the subdivision submission. Because Larry Brown did say that with subdivision submissions over a certain size, they would look at that.
Correct, yes.
So that might be it, but, I have a.
And it's 6 lots.
Related question. Related question has to do with that Kaiviki, I don't know, resolution, I guess, which we asked the mayor for a.
I have it right here.
And, did we ever get a response to that?
No, not that I know of. Bobby, I remember it was sent, they had the background information, the summary of the advisory commission, and it went through, this was what Jordan and Mike and I think worked on. This was stuff that was done on August 21st, 2012, up to September or October 16th, 2013. And the last of the Department of Public Works, County of Hawaii, confirmed that they were unable to conduct a survey to mark the access route in the field due to higher problematic priorities. And then that was it. But then we submitted this to the mayor to see if he could nudge this along or what, but I don't know what happened.
Right,
We didn't follow up on it either, so.
I think one of the problems was Jordan quit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if Eleanor's hired a replacement, or do you know?
They have, a gentleman named David Penn.
I think what Ike was trying to say is the letter, we sent it to the mayor for request assistance to substantiate, confirm survey, and mark a public access route to the Kaibiki section of the Hilo Forest Reserve.
No, I understand what you're saying, but the process fell apart when Jordan left. Now, you might be able to continue that with the new person, and I can see about finding out about that, if that's what you'd like to do. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because that
And
Temple
what was
Quail
his name
was
again? What was the new guy's name?
David Penn.
David Penn. Yeah, that one area by Pipakio, that was already an easement provided when they built that subdivision.
Right.
So that's something that's in the books already, they just need to follow through and do that one. So that's a pretty low hanging fruit there.
And my understanding is that the owner was willing to dedicate that, right?
Yes, the easement was part of building that subdivision, so
Right.
it's in the books already, it's there. And that's just the most feasible spot, because the Kaibiki Homestead one is you have to go down, when you go to Kolekole Park, and you go down in the gulch, and then there's a road that goes up Mauka. And it's beautiful, you go all the way to the end, but that one is really iffy because it dead ends, and there's two driveways, and then there's like a gulch. So there's really nowhere to even do anything with that one, that might be a difficult one. And then Chinchok is bordering, there's an easement that you gotta go through Kamehameha School land first before you can get to the forest preserve, so that one's probably out of the question also, yeah. Yeah, we haven't gotten in that area. Yeah, Olu's all private, 200-acre ranches up there, yeah.
So what I'll do is, by our next meeting, I'll talk to David Penn, see about restarting our the project that we had with Jordan. Okay.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. You're welcome. And of course, talk to Larry about getting heads ups on mountain-related public access issues.
Yeah, are we done with that section? Okay, you wanna move on to the wildlife revolving fund?
Yeah, it's just Tony, I don't have much on the wildlife revolving fund right now. I mean, I have a few things, but it's kind of, we've been hashing this out for a while. And I guess the one thing that I would talk about it is just to kind of rehash of what started it and what happened this legislative session was that, current monies allocated to the wildlife revolving fund are substantially insufficient for the department to carry out the objectives of HRS 183D. So our goal for this last legislative session, although the bill didn't make it in there at all, we are working with DLNR because Esther Kiaina, they're supposed to have given that $750,000 plan that started off with a comprehensive game management plan that trickled down to $250,000, and then added in animal control to that. So I think that's where it died. And I don't see where, is that going to come back this next year to have some kind of money to do some type of game management or something. I don't know. That's something we need to really discuss and see who's going to pick that up and run with it, because Esther Kiaina is now gone, and I don't even know who the deputy chair is right now. They would handle that for us and help move that bill, because obviously if we introduce something like that, it's not going to go anywhere because it has to be supported by the department. So they would have to pretty much set the rules for that as is. So as far as us trying to do anything locally right now, I think we need to talk more about it. We have a meeting scheduled in the near future that we're going to sit down and meet. This is one of the topics we're going to talk about. So I'll be prepared at the next meeting to be able to discuss more on the wildlife revolving fund.
The new first deputy Department of Land and Natural Resources is Jesse Suki, S-O-U-K-I.
And I think he used to be in charge of state planning.
Correct.
My understanding, my understanding of the Wildlife Revolving Fund is sort of confused because when I did volunteer work with DLNR Dukia, we were always told that, they can't use those funds for game management because some kind of conflict with conservation rules or something like that. And I think if we're going to pursue this, we need to get real clarification on that. Because, there are big monies in there. And for some reason, it doesn't trickle down to the game management programs.
There is no big money.
Well, my understanding that, for example, back in about 80, sometime in the 80s, Ducare turned back money, and there was a big to-do about that because it was from the Wildlife Revolving Fund. And it was supposed to have been spent by Ducare, and that never was. And so the following year, there was a joint resolution to do an audit of DLNR, and what finally came out of all that was that Ducare was subjected to an audit. Okay, so I think before we get into the real nitty-gritty of this, we ought to get some real sound understanding of that fund and how it's spent and how it can be spent. And the only people that can tell us that would be DLNR, I think. So that's my recommendation, if we're going to pursue this.
Well, we are gonna pursue it, and we had two bills that we submitted. Tony and I, forget what exactly, the watershed, right, that 1166 is involving for. Watershed monies to fund the watershed projects. The state wanted to access the conveyance tax, a certain amount, and so we got involved with them on that. The Wildlife Revolving Fund, one of the issues that we haven't really addressed is the Wildlife Revolving Fund only gets money from certain sources. The following proceeds shall be retained by or transmitted to the Department of Land and Natural Resources for deposit into the Wildlife Revolving Fund, and there is no general fund monies that go into that. Monies that go into that are fees for the hunting licenses, those that who buy a hunting license. Hunter education training programs and other things that we don't charge for. Money from DoCare, if they fines or what have you. Money from the sale of artwork and other things. So that's in that stamp that we have. So one of the things that we need to talk about is Wildlife Revolving Fund doesn't have any money right now. You get $10 per hunter, about $9,500 that goes into the Wildlife Revolving Fund. And the state hasn't, you remember that lawsuit, right? When they were sued, the state was sued for creating rules without going through administrative procedures. That stamp, which added another $10 or $20 to the hunting licenses, was eliminated. So now they get $10 per hunter, and that's it. They aren't doing DoCare, not doing any fines. They're not catching anybody. Currently, within last year, it was zero went into the Wildlife Revolving Fund from DoCare. So the question is, from hunters too, and that we would like to hear from you. The reason for the change in the rules was so that they could get that money back. In 6.5 years, since they've had any game rules, and it doesn't look like it's gonna be happening anytime soon. Shane DeMatros over on Maui, who was the acting administrator, for the program, the wildlife coordinator, told me that it would be the end of the year before they even consider it. And so I discussed it with him, I said, well, how about the end of summer? He said they're 95% complete. They've been active for 6.5 years. So the question is, and we brought this up the other night too, what do we do? Because we as hunters, if we want money to the wildlife revolving fund, how do we get it there? Do we submit legislation to change the hunting fees today? Or do we wait until they change the rules, and then try and change the fees? So that's basically where we're at.
Okay, I think my comment is perhaps a little bit off the subject, but I think what I'm trying to get at is that there's supposed to be a lot of federal monies that come into the state that are supposed to be going into game management and those programs. But for policy reasons, I guess they're not. And I'd like to explore those fundings and the monies and where they go and why they're